Good evening, beautiful people of DMR TV, and welcome to this live episode of the program Issues. On today's discussion, we shall be delving into, or we will be exploring, the rights and responsibilities of tenants and landlords, and we shall also be looking at the common areas of conflict between the tenants and the landlords. And before we conclude on the program, we shall be bringing to you possible solutions that will help tenants and landlords to live as one. We are calling on you to join us as the program unfolds by sharing with us your experiences and also asking your questions. I am Fomucha Mirabel for presentation, coming back right after the break. Once again, you're welcome to the program Issues on DMR TV, where we shall be looking at the often complex relationship that exists between tenants and landlords. And on today's edition of the program, we have here with us Barrister Mrs. Walang Honorine, who will be sharing with us her expertise and also give us the standpoint of the law. Hello, Barrister.
Hello, Mira. Good evening. Good evening, televiewers.
Good evening.
It's a pleasure to be with you people today, and thanks for inviting me once.
We are delighted to have you on board, and we are also welcoming Mr. Mba Tebo Lucas of the Directorate of Communication in the Diocese of Boya, who will also be sharing with us his experiences and also what he thinks should be the best way forward to ensure that we foster a better coexistence between tenants and landlords. Hello, Mr. Tebo.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to televiewers. Good evening, Barrister. Once again, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us on the program. I will begin by looking at the concept of who a tenant is and who a landlord is, so that we can better understand ourselves as we run through today's program. Barrister, can you help us with that?
Okay. The concept, I'll just give an overview of a tenant and a landlord relationship.
Okay.
And
it's okay.
I'll just give an overview of a tenant and a landlord relationship. It is that relationship where the landlord gives out the house and or premises, and the tenant accept to let it for a consideration known as rent.
Okay.
Yes, simplicity, that's a definition that you can give.
Right.
And in tenancy, we have, in Cameroon, we have a tenancy of commercial lease. That is with that guides commercial practices. Yes,
okay.
When it comes to commercial practices, then we have recovery of premises ordinance that guides relationship with residential tenancy.
Okay.
Yes, but the person, there are some words that I would like to explain here. The person that is giving out the premises is known as the lessor, while the person that is taking the premises is known as the lessee. So those are
the lessor and the lessee. Okay.
Yes, the lessor is the owner of the premises, while the lessor is the person that
the lessee.
Yes, the lessee is the person letting the premises.
Okay.
And it's also important to know that tenancy, it depends on
we understand that. Maybe we just put it on silent so that we don't have this interaction. Okay, that's fine. Now we'll move over to you, Tebo. Okay, so you can continue.
Yes, so like I was saying, I'm very sorry for the
distraction.
So like I was saying, the tenant is known as the person owning the house is known as the lessor, while the person taking out the house or whom the house is being given to is known as the lessee. And so far as tenancy is concerned, we have tenancies of various categories. Tenancy, we have tenancy that ranges between 1 to 3 years.
Okay.
That tenancy, you can have written contract to it, as well as you can have oral contract.
Oral contract.
Oral contract is admissible.
Okay.
And for that contract, for an oral contract to be admissible, there are some 3 considerations that have to be taken into account. There must be a rent that is being reserved, and then the possession is being given out, and it is given out on monthly basis.
Okay.
Yes. So once you accept with a tenant on oral basis that, okay, you are coming into my house, yes, I want to take this house for a tenant for monthly basis, even if it's for yearly basis, but not exceeding 3 years. Orally, all the terms that you people discuss orally, they are admissible. But when it comes to lease or tenancy for above 5 years, it must be in writing.
Okay.
And those tenancy, you mostly see them with when it comes to land issue or business
inclined.
Business inclined.
Okay.
Yes, so that's what I want to say.
So we have the lessor.
Yes.
And we have the lessee. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much, Tebo. I want us to look at the dynamics that characterize the relationship between tenants and landlords, especially in Moliko, Boya as a whole. There is really tension between tenants and landlord. Please, can you give us an overview of that?
Thank you very much. I think the relationship between tenants and landlord is quite contentious in most areas. One of the reasons, from my understanding, which makes this relationship contentious is because I think that first of all, we have very weak tenancy laws governing tenancy, or this whole issue of landlord
and tenants,
and then secondly, both the tenant and the landlord seemingly don't have a mastery of what I'm supposed to do, as in what are my rights and what are my limitations. So in most often you tend to see people taking personal decisions and do things in a way that places them irrespective. There's no law to clamp them down, there's no general law to guide everybody. So we live in this chaotic space whereby somebody, because he has taken in Jangi and had difficulties, can just increase the rent overnight to double the amount and say if you don't want to pay you can go out of the house and so on. Somebody who has stayed in the house for 4 years suddenly thinks that he's an owner of the house. Exactly. Anyhow. So it's kind of contentious because people don't really know where are my limitations. Because no matter what, even if you stay in a house for 100 years, you're still a tenant. And you are not different from somebody who has stayed there for just one month.
Day.
So it doesn't change your responsibility or your obligation as a tenant towards your agreement. But people don't understand that. So it becomes so conflicting. People say that, no mind you, I don't stay for house of fire only 1 month.
They consider me.
Yeah. So it's kind of, but I think it's a very, like I said, generally it's a contentious relationship in the sense that I think people just at prices of whatever they are giving out as property unilaterally is becoming alarming. It is I don't know what they're taking into consideration. I thought, or I assume, or I believe, or I was thinking that there was some existing laws to guide rent increment for people who are living in a particular town or in the country or something like that. I don't know whether that exists. I don't know whether maybe
Barrister is going to clarify that.
Yes, but I think generally, if you look at it, people are in court every day, people are in police stations every day.
Tenants and landlords are there every day.
Give quit notice. Who's supposed to give quit notice? You see a landlord climbs on tenant and remove the zinc when the tenant is still living there. So because you have been owing for too long, you don't want to go, or they take you to the police your friend, you stay there. So it's really difficult. I think it's a difficult relationship, and I think that this kind of, unfortunately, we live in a country where until something becomes out of hand, then nobody really takes concrete measures to address them. But I think that it is a relationship where most often the tenants are exploited.
Okay, thank you so much for that that insight. Let us talk to Barrister to give us let her give us the legal perspective of what the rights of the tenants are with respect to living in a particular house.
I'll start by saying that a tenancy is a contract.
Okay.
And when it's a contract, it implies that it has terms. And those terms are supposed to be set by
the landlord
and the tenant.
Okay.
Yes, the landlord and the tenant, or the landlord set the terms, and when you are coming in, they read the terms to you and they explain the terms to you. If you are okay with the terms of the contract, then you are free
You sign and you say
sign
okay.
and so that is a guiding document. And you as the tenant, if you feel that there are some clauses on the contract that does not suit you, is for you to discuss it with the landlord, and then they correct
See if
the
there can
contract,
be any
yes,
adjustment.
so that all of you know your responsibilities, so that in case one person wants to breach the other person's right, it's very easy for you to refer that person back
to the contract.
Yes. So the mistake we are making is many a times we focus on oral agreement, which is somehow very difficult to trace when there is dispute. So it is always good to prepare a tenancy agreement at the beginning, before, in fact, once you have a house, just prepare a tenancy agreement. You can look for a legal practitioner to draw up one for you, a tenancy agreement, and then you keep the space open for the tenants. Once they come in, they fill it, they give their credentials and everything, then you read out the terms to them. When you read out the terms to the tenant and they are okay with it, all right, you give them the house to let, and you spell out all the clauses that you want, how you want the house to be managed, because you are the landlord.
Okay.
It is your house. You are the one that has built it, and safeguarding the house is for your own advantage. So many a times the contract is for the favor of the
landlord.
Okay. At the mercy of the tenant.
Okay.
And so as such, some tenants, I don't know whether they become biased or what, they tend to even insult their landlords.
Yeah.
You know, they are very rude. Some of them will not even pay rent, you know, and then when you want to go and ask your rent, it becomes a problem. You know, they start using words to you as you are a witch, you are a wicked person. Forgetting to know that all about life is not money. Relationship, cohabiting matters a lot. Live and let's live. It matters a lot. When you are renting somebody's house, it's not only that money that matters, but what also matters is that relationship
that you build.
Yes, you build with that person. So when you are going to somebody's house, going there with the mindset that you are going to create a relationship, you are going to create a new family. When you go in with that mindset, you will discover that all those conflicts will be minimized. But if you are going there saying that I am a tenant, like Mr. Tebo has rightly said, I've lived in this house for 10 years, I've lived it doesn't change you as the tenant. But what makes you build up the relationship for that 10 years? What relationship have I built? What impact have I created in that community where I'm living? And that's why you see some tenants are very good to the extent that the relationship that they have created with their landlord becomes so cordial to the extent that they are the one even controlling the house. At times, I've even seen a situation where people, they create good relationship to the extent that the landlord leaves the house to the tenant for him not to pay rent. Just stay here. Your rent is to control this resident and collect my rents and everything. So it's a mutual relationship. Once there is this mutual relationship, it minimizes conflict. It's true, it's a contract. But once there is a contract and people have, adulterated mindset, it will not go through, because it's human relation. It's very difficult to see two humans that are the same. You are coming from your own side with your own mindset. The way you have been brought up is different. Your landlord or your landlady is having his own mindset and he has his own way that he has been brought up. And so the beauty about it is to know each other. And knowing each other is through communication. You communicate more. When you have a challenge, you contact your landlord. This is the challenge I have. Please, how can you enable me? In a good tone. There is nobody who will not love to hear those good words. But if you can, I don't get lights. I don't get lights. I don't know what you do. I'll simply just tell you that before you enter the house, did you have light? When you say yes, I say, for how long have you stayed in this house? Say for 6 months or 1 year. I say, it's as a result of you consuming that light that the light got bad, and as such, it's just prudent for you to repair your light. It is your house. Have you ever seen me there? That is your house. I was giving the house to you, so you have to manage it the way you want. Manage it as your own house. Your bulb will not get bad, and
you call for the landlord to come and fix that bulb.
Yes,
I think that
I
want to come in. I think that we all understand. I'm just trying to be balanced.
Exactly.
We understand that minor repairs are supposed to be carried out by tenant, while major repairs are supposed to be carried out by the landlord. That I think that's an established fact. For instance, it will be a 10-story building and there is a blockage in the building. You don't expect a tenant, we don't know which apartment is a landlord to carry that. But if a bulb is bad, a padlock is bad again. But most of the tenancy law, I don't know if it does exist. The tenancy, you see, the relation between a tenant and a landlord greatly, hugely, 98% disfavors the tenant. And most often people tend to give the impression that because you have built the house, you've done something that nobody has, or no one Napoleon has
not done.
Because tenants are paying to live in that house. They're not living for the house for free. They are paying. And as a result, no matter who is at fault, the person who is going to bear the responsibility most often is the tenant.
Let me come in there, please. Don't say I'm blocking you.
Okay.
Before I started, I said landlord and tenancy relationship is a contract. And being a contract, there are terms, there are clauses that are being set. And if anybody is breaching any terms of that contract, that person is responsible. If the terms of the contract doesn't suit you, the tenant, as you are coming in,
you
it's
decide
for
to,
you, yes,
to say no, I'm not going to
so
take
that you
this
shouldn't be
particular
exploited.
house.
Or again, you use your polite way, say, please, can we just adjust this clause like this, so much that it will suit all of us.
That's what I'm trying to say. Even in a situation, in a typical situation where, first of all, in a normal legal setting, you can't give room for individual landlords to make tenancy agreement at large without any control, because we live in a country of laws. We don't live in one jungle. So if I build a house, I cannot just say that, okay, because I built the house, you must pay 1 year caution up front. If not, you don't care, don't leave. No, that's violation of people's right, because there's an existing law.
You're right as a tenant over my house. That's what I really want to understand.
Your right as a landlord cannot supersede the right of a state where you belong.
Now let Barrister tell us if there is any law
there are laws that are being put in place by the government that you don't need to compromise. In as much as you are setting the clauses of your contract, you must take into consideration those implied, they call it the implied covenant. Because whether you add them to the contract or not, that is what you have to respect. And one of those implied covenants, what are the implied covenants? As regarding the tenant, the tenant has to pay rent. The tenant has to pay all utilities and water bill. You are supposed to keep your environment clean.
Exactly.
You are supposed to repair and so
minor repairs.
Yes, you have to enjoy your house after you have fulfilled all the other terms. You have to enjoy your house, and then
enjoying your house, not on
you have to enjoy the fact that the possession has been given to you.
Have your privacy and the rest.
Not on the detriment of others who live with you. Because talking about enjoyment of the house, the way some of the tenants go about it, a tenant will get up in the morning at 5 a.m. and the volume is on 100. Exactly.
So, and those are some of the things that you have to set in the contract. You play your music within the confines of your room, because you shouldn't be a nuisance because you are living, create nuisance because you are living somewhere. And it goes same with pets. You don't just have the right to bring a dog pet in the compound. And before one morning, before they are getting up, the pet is shouting all over the place or crying. You know, even if you have to bring in one, it should be the agreement of the tenant and the landlord. You see, those are some of the clauses that you set in the contract. You say, okay, this is my house. I don't want more than 5 persons to live in a room.
In this house,
Before the tenant comes in, you tell the tenant, I don't want more than 5 persons to come in. If you know you have a large family, then this place is not for you. But if you know you respect this limit, then we can live. And then when the tenant start bleaching those clauses, then you tell the tenant that you are
in
this
the wrong
place,
place.
yes, you are in the wrong place.
It is this issue of
Yes.
you are in the wrong place, you have to leave, that I want to come back to it.
Okay.
Yes.
Because most often, if the landlord breaches his or her contract and the tenant complains, at the end of the day, they'll tell you that you are at the wrong place, you have to leave. Because there is no legal responsibility or neither. There's no way, whether you carry the tenant to whichever,
No,
for instance,
you can still with that contract. I say contract is an agreement.
That is the binding.
Exactly.
It's the binding document.
Document.
And so far as you are paying your land tax for that house, that tenant has the right. The tenant has the right to also still approach the court. Putting writing.
So,
writing is
I want us to be. I want us to,
attaching the contract.
I want us to
Okay.
be. I want us to take a real life
Yes.
situation,
Okay.
so that let's not.
Be
I'm
talking
renting
in
the
the
house
air.
for 20,000 francs a month. I pay 20,000 or 10,000 francs. Let me go that level. My landlord promises me that I'm supposed to have security at the gate. I'm supposed to have a cleaner. I'm supposed to clean the environment twice a week. None of that happens, right? I'm just a student. And I don't work. Maybe my parents are paying for me. But my contract agreement, I'm fulfilling all my contractual agreements. The landlord or my landlady is not fulfilling his or her contractual agreement. I take the landlord to court. Should I? So I'll sue the landlord, because
so now, how is the tenant covered when it comes
if I
to
talk to
a
my landlord,
situation
say,
like
no, I'm
this?
sorry, yes, there, but I don't have money for security. Some people are owing me rent. I cannot catch up. I cannot pay the security. So if you're not comfortable, you can leave. I hire a lawyer for 200,000 or
When you are paying
50,000.
rent for 10,000
Is
for
that
20,000.
exactly?
And that's how some people are. They will prefer to hire that lawyer for 20,000
Than to pay
for
their rent.
200,000 rather than just quietly
Leaving the house.
You understand? Some people, but how
Quietly leave.
many of them will embark on that path of hiring a lawyer, go to court, even if you win the case, maybe they give a lawyer a fine of 100,000 francs. You end up because at the end of the day, you destroy that relationship you're talking about. It still boils down to the fact that you still leave the house at the end
Let
of
me
the
tell
day.
you.
I think, Madam Walang, what Tebo is trying to highlight here is that there is no law that that covers the tenant, because even from the beginning, when you spoke more of the benefits of
A
the
landlord.
not
So it
really
means
the
that
tenant.
also that the
In
tenant
this
has-
situation
what?
which he has raised, how is the tenant being covered? Because I know that most of those contracts, they have clauses like the environment will be cleaned every week, and for that you are supposed to pay 1,000 for every week. They include it into your rent, and you've paid that money. They also talk about the security lights, which you have to pay like 2,000 francs every month, and you go to a cité, all the bulbs are blown. The landlord does not take up his own responsibility
Exactly.
to ensure that is being repaired. So how is the tenant being covered by the law at this when these situations arise? Or what can the tenants do?
Many a times when you come to take a house, first do your due diligence as the tenant. Due diligence means what? You have gone through the contract. Check whether all what is stated in the contract is in place. Because once you have entered that contract and those things are not in place, just know that you stay like that.
Again, you can't be an investigator over there because you want to rent a house.
No, it's not as it's not being an investigator. You came to a premises. There will be light and there will be everything. You come to the house in the evening. What you just need to do is it not your house?
No,
The
but
key
I
has been
understand.
given
I
to
understand.
you.
I think we are talking about a situation where
I
you
understand.
came and
You
the
came-
lights
it was
were
there.
Yes.
Then
It is
after
in the
2-3
course.
months,
Okay, for instance, let me take a typical example. Let me myself. as an
Okay, so
example.
the problem is now is maintenance.
exactly,
Exactly.
maintenance.
It was not there from
From the
onset.
beginning.
Exactly.
Okay, and since with the contract, anybody that
Breaches the contract.
any clause of the contract is supposed to pay for damages. So now, as you are saying that the tenant is not being protected, the tenant is protected because it's for you to seize the court, and you take the contract, you attach your notice to the court, what you have written, an application whatsoever to the court. You attach the contract there, highlighting the clause that has been seized, and now you prove to the court that because of this light, I have been harmed, I've been bitten by a snake, I've been you show how the impact of that
The absence of
particular
that
the absence of your
service.
light or whatsoever has caused harm on you. and then now the landlord is supposed to pay for those damages.
Yes,
pay for the damages.
We are talking about ideal situations. That's an ideal situation, but it's not practical, and it's not what we live in our daily realities. What we live in our daily reality is that if I don't pay my rent for 1-2 months, my landlady will kick me out of the house. That's a daily reality. My landlady doesn't to go to court, get called injunction. We know that that's a fact. So how many persons who are living in a house they pay their 5,000 Karabot house in a suburb of Moliko can actually go to court to enforce some of these things? It is not practical. It is not. So what I'm saying is that, because at the end of the day, your best bet will be that if you are not comfortable in the house, you leave. Meanwhile, your rights have been violated, and if you don't do your own part, you still leave at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, there's no law to protect the tenant.
There's no law to protect the tenant.
Everything favors the landlord.
On the contrary, there's a lot of laws to protect the tenant, because you cannot just get up overnight and you evict a tenant from the house. There is a procedure. Once you want to seize the court, the first thing the court requests is a quick notice of 1 month, depending on the tenancy. If you have a tenancy, a yearly tenancy, you have to give a quick notice for 6 months. If it's a tenancy for 6 months, you have to give a quick notice for 3 months. And if it is just monthly tenancy, then it's 1 month. Is that not protecting the tenants?
It
is protecting the tenant, especially when it comes to business premises. With business premises, you cannot just get up and give a quick notice for 1 year and the court will accept that. No, you must at least give a quick notice for 6 months. Also. For 6 months, because that will be time enough for the tenant to inform his or her clients to look for an alternative accommodation, and to carry out all the other logistics into his new premises.
I really don't want to look at it to be protecting the right of. I'm just looking at it as a typical. I'm a tenant. I'm looking at it from a tenant's perspective. I don't want to look at what you said as protecting the right of tenant, because in this case, or in most of these cases, nobody is in breach of any violation concerning the agreement. For instance, if I'm a business person, or I realize that I want to transform my house and upgrade it so that a bank can take it, and you are running a small business, the law says I should give you 6 months notice. You've not breached any contract, right? There's nothing warranting me to remove. I just maybe think that I'll have more money to invest. Then my 1-story building, I have to put now 2-story building. So I say, okay, you have to vacate so that I can be more and make more money. Nobody has breached any contract. I'm talking in a typical case where a contract has been breached. For instance, like you not paying rent, which is a major breach of contract. It's as good as you not providing me security that you are supposed to provide. That's a breach of contract. But if I don't pay you rent for 3 months, you won't keep me in your house.
Of course.
But if you don't give me security for 3 months, the best way will happen is that you will still ask me to leave. I'm not
if you are not comfortable.
No, what I want you to say is the procedure to
leave a house, to
evict a house, and to get the requisite damages is so demanding, more than even the damages that they are going to pay.
Exactly.
So that's what I want you to, because it's not as if the law is dormant about it. Once you breach any term of contract, you are supposed to pay for damage. There is specific damage and there is general damages.
I think what Barrister is saying is that the law covers for the procedure. The procedure for a tenant to go to court to start establishing facts that because I did not have security lights for 2 or 3 days, this happened to me. And even when you have those facts, how long does our courts take to render you this service and to come to a consensus? Because sometimes you even take more than a year to follow up things in courts, our courts in Cameroon, and that's why they always
say more than a year.
That is true.
But if
that is more than
if that's the case, why can't landlord also take that amount of time to get a quick notice out of the court? Why can a landlord just go to the court tomorrow and come back in the evening with a quick notice? But for you to get a landlord to pay you for damages, you need 3 years.
No, what we are saying is that there are different. You're asking for different favors, or if you are going for a quick notice, it doesn't take you 1 day. But now that quick notice gives you time. You as a tenant, it gives you time to live in the house, to prepare your mind and
pay your rent.
Exactly, pay your rent before leaving. They are not saying that.
No. Quick notice is a verdict. When they give you quit notice, it's a verdict. You have to leave. Forget about the time. Whether you leave after 1 month, it's a verdict.
You don't leave immediately. That's not what the law says.
It is the time to leave is not relevant in this context. What I'm saying, we're talking about verdict of breach of contract. If you are not paying your rent and I want you to quit, but I hand you quit notice, that verdict has been passed that you have to leave. Whether you are living in 10 years is irrelevant. So what if you don't?
What do you mean by 10 years? Because the time for you to leave is specified.
I want you to understand me. Okay, let me put it this way. Let's put it that if you don't pay rent for 2 months, right? I can give you a quit notice. So I can get that quit notice within 2 days from the court and give you. Sure. That's a very okay. Sure. The law will say, okay, stay there for 2 months before you look for a new house. What if you don't provide me security in my house? Why can't I get a quick verdict that you pay this month for damages 100,000, but pay that 100,000 within the next 2 years, just like you take within the next 2 years to quit?
You see, that one is security issues. You understand? That now you can go to the brigade or to the public security or the police. You apply that. My landlord, before I came in, my landlord said, you want to stay in the house. It's not as if you don't want to stay. My landlord agreed to do this. First go to the landlord. There is nothing as good as mutual understanding.
But I want
first meet your.
I don't want us to look at this thing to be a family. I have an uncle.
Okay.
I don't have an uncle. I don't think.
See, Tebo,
it is important. It's important, but
it's very important.
It is important, but it does not take away the fact that it's an agreement. The problem with us in Africa is that we like to familiarize everything. I have an uncle who has a house. So when he sends you to go and ask rent, you go there and say, "Where, mommy precious?" My uncle said, he said, no. That mommy precious thing makes people look too familiar. Use Mrs. Mirabel. I came for rent. That distinction must be clear. You can have your family relationship out, but it does not take away the fact that if there's an agreement, the spirit of that agreement must be respected. Leave family aside. I don't need to come and kneel in front of you before you start saying that this table is polite. I should fix his ball.
I think what we are looking at, 2 different cases.
Yes, two different
scenarios, which requires 2 different ways of handling them.
Okay.
That's why we are talking about 2 different things here. Quitting a tenant and also providing the necessary services. So those two areas require 2 ways of handling it. That's how the law has put it, and so we have to live with that. And let me go back to the issue of mutual understanding. Sometimes even without out of the tenancy landlord relationship, in most relationships, even when you go to court, those the state councils or the lawyers who are really know what it takes to get to the end result, they'll advise you if there is a way. Go back. Good. Handle it out of court. If you try many times and it doesn't work, then you can come. Because the stress and the challenges you face
so
in court, it is horrible. And so I think that's why they'll always, it's not as if, and I agree with you that familiarity, when you are too familiar with the tenants,
they will never pay your rent.
They will not pay rent.
They will never.
On top of that, they will insult you. On top of that, they are going to destroy your house. They'll do whatever they want. And you know, we are in Africa, and our brothers and sisters sometimes can be very funny, because when you take this issue of mutual understanding, living as one, you want to build that relationship, and the tenant walks up to you as a landlord or landlady. Sometimes they don't even walk up to you when they don't have the money to pay the rent. They wait for you to pick up your phone and call them, and they start telling you where Auntie Me or where Madam Uncle Tebo, I am sorry, I had this difficulty, my child was sick. But they forget to understand that is business. If you're building a house, first of all, tenants they even don't have the right to understand where you took money from to build that house.
Build a house.
Some people go into huge amounts of loans, and they rely on the rents to be able to pay those loans. And so when you get up in the morning and you call somebody to remind that person that you have been there for 1 month, 2 months, your rents have expired, and you have not paid, they start telling you, my auntie was sick, my mother died yesterday, and the rest. Honestly, that is not important.
It's not important at all.
Exactly, it's not important. And when you, out of your goodwill, you say, okay, let me understand with this particular tenant, you take into consideration that life can be difficult sometimes, and you understand for 1 month, they take it for granted. And let me tell you the truth, the moment you give them a quick notice, they go and rent a better house which is better than your own.
And pay the money.
And pay the money. And pay the money.
True. You are correct, you're 100% correct. That is more reason why I keep emphasizing on the fact that tenancy agreement is a legal agreement. And in as much as we can have personal relationships coming into play, I think that the agreement in its spirit and its form should be respected by both the landlord and the landlady. In some other countries, you live for us for 50 years, you never know your landlord. You don't even know. There's nothing.
Sure.
You have no business with the landlord.
No business.
The landlord hire a legal firm.
Yes.
You don't know who to go and beg.
Exactly.
They just send your bill. If you cannot pay on the feet, you quit. It's automatic. Nobody. You don't my way. I'm a begin. So it is. And in that kind of a system, you realize that
it's only you that you see.
That's the fact.
That's the truth. Yes, because people, this issue of knowing people where mommy precious, how for you sleep, picking the sleep fine, where you are passing, no, let me carry water.
You pass me, no salon.
Exactly. It's not relevant.
You see me for there.
Exactly. So you start building irrelevant relationship, which is not necessary. We're not saying that relationship is bad. We're saying that it should not influence the professional relationship, which is
the reason why
you guys are there in the first place.
Your tenant and your landlord.
Exactly. That's the first reason.
Mm-hmm.
So it is really difficult, and when these kind of things come into play, it breeds room now for all this one was respecting, because after all, you know, I have a pay rent for 3 more, I believe it. They complain, I say lie no day. Why will I pay rent on time? If I'm not sorry. So you see, all these people are compromising on values, and at the end of the day,
it affects other tenants.
It affects other tenants because most often somebody who is consistent with his or her rent suffers from those who are not consistent. It is not supposed to be like that. I've lived in a house where we've not had light for long, and then the matter was so serious. We did a complaint, went to judicial police. I spearheaded that complaint. So when the landlord, he was not around, he had a lawyer was saying his own things. The landlord finally came at the judicial police. So he came at judicial police. Then the people were like, "Who are the tenants? There's people who sign on this document." They were like 20 people who signed. The people were scared that no, they don't want to problem with the landlord. Those who were scared, they were owing rent. So they were owing rent. They said, "No, if I go landlord, I drive I feel owe rent." So they didn't want to come. I was there. I paid my rent.
Yes.
So I was there with one other person.
So
that other person too had not paid his rent.
Had not paid the rent.
Yes. So when landlord came, then we met the lady at the judicial police. I don't want to call her name. Then she was like, "We are sorry. According to law, what people came in group, how many people must be there before?" I said, "Okay, madam. Right now, forget about the group.
Look at
doing
me.
a fresh complainer as table. Afterwards, now have a general contract."
Exactly. You came as an individual.
And that is how that, because we're owing, I don't know how the bill came about, but the building was owing that bill for 800 something thousand francs and so on. The man was compelling us to pay. I said, "No, I have individual meter. I pay my bills. My agreement is I'm supposed to pay one general security bill. So I don't understand. Some people are stealing like this and that, and they have to be in the dark." So the man said that no, since I've complained and I paid my rent, he's going to pay that bill. He paid my bill. He go and pay the bill. And so the very day, when I came home, I was received like Fundi in 1990. People were celebrating, and then the man came on Monday and said that everybody, if you are 20 times before you leave his house, I don't have a problem. So we are saying that in as much, they say he who goes to equity must go with clean hands. You ensure that you have carried out all your responsibilities before you are pointing finger at your landlord. I think that's fair enough.
Thank you so much, Tebo, for that practical insight. Now let us look at the ethical part of it. Is it ethical for landlords to wake up overnight and increase the rent? Because there was a time in Moliko about 4 years back when a bag of cement was 7,500 francs. It moved from 5,300 francs to 7,500 francs, and it was like that for about 3 months. And when that news went around, that very period, almost all landlords, they changed their rents. Price for bag for cement don't increase. Cement don't increase. So barrister, you're here, and it's a practical situation, especially in Boya. I really cannot talk about other parts of the country, but I'm talking about Boya and Moliko, where I am so much versed with.
Okay. It's not ethical for a landlord to just get up and add rents. because you have to prepare your tenant. Because anybody that takes whether is salary or is doing business plans for that money.
Yeah.
And as such, when you want to increase the rent, it is on the covenant that you enter between the landlord and the tenant.
Yeah,
you have to inform the tenant, depending on the period of rent, at least for 2 months.
Okay.
You must give that tenant in writing 2 months notice that from this month, giving your reason because of this, because of that, I have to increase the rents.
Okay.
Yes. That is being somehow polite. You cannot just get up and say, I've increased the rent. I will not pay.
You leave.
The tenant, I will not
Yes,
leave.
and the common language is
I will
if you
not
don't want to
leave.
pay, you leave my house.
Because
You don't have to pay, you leave my house. Yes,
we
Stable.
are
No,
looking at
it's
the-
not because those are some of the clauses that they are supposed to specify.
Exactly.
Yes, specify in your contract.
Like my tenancy
Yes.
agreement does not have any issue related to increments in
Increase
rent.
rents,
There's
okay.
nothing like that. But let me just assume for the sake of, for all intent and purpose, for practical, for argumentative purpose, that tomorrow my landlady decides that, okay, tomorrow your house, instead of paying this amount, you are paying that amount. The truth is, no matter how beautiful the reason is, it will not be welcome news.
Exactly.
No matter the reason, whether cement has gone up and down, it does not concern me with cement because the salary does not increase or my business does not increase with respect to that. But what I'm seeing is that, you see, it's easier. There are very few landlords and there are many tenants, right? So it is easier for landlords to kind of constitute a synergy and decide to act with impunity. And if all the landlords in Boya decide that for a single room people pay 50,000 francs, for instance, whether the house is worth it or not, the fact is that people must live in the house.
Exactly.
And so they will pay.
They'll pay.
Whether they complain from here to America,
They'll pay.
They will pay.
If you don't want to pay, you leave
and
my
it is
house.
easy for the landlord, or it's easier for landlords to do that because there are not many. They can just constitute one small synergy and say that, Master, let's just, these are our rents. So it still boils down to what I'm saying. There is nothing protecting, because we are like consumers. The consumer
you see,
protect,
let me just come in there, Mr. Table. What you are saying that they should form a synergy and a single
can.
room.
I said they can,
Okay, they can form a synergy for a single room to cost 50,000 francs.
for instance.
That one, it cannot just work because the rooms, they are in different categories.
It's a minimum.
You have single rooms, well finished staff.
Yeah.
There is warm water inside the room. There is air.
But it's a perfect. I'm just saying that a minimum.
The luxuries are inside the room, and then now you go to another room where there is a pit toilet.
That one will be 50. That one your furnish will be 100.
With
For instance, I'm just saying that a base.
to pay 50,000.
Okay, what if that's the situation?
Then the location also.
I understand what I'm saying.
Those
Is
are
that
some of the consideration that
Yes,
you take
that
before you increase.
Exactly.
The location.
But what
the structure of the house,
Yeah.
the finishing of the
the
house
house,
also matter.
yes.
You understand?
I mean,
the
the general
security
taste
of the
of the
house.
house.
the
Yes, the
taste.
security of the environment also matter. You will not go to how do they call this place? This quarter. This
Bonakana.
no. This Moliko there.
Ndongo.
You will not go to Ndongo where somebody has built a small calaboose and stuff and want to compare that house with a house at federal
checkpoints
quarters.
or
Exactly.
Checkpoint.
even at
Exactly.
checkpoints.
Yeah, so it matter. What you can say is they should they should classify the areas.
Exactly.
Yeah, the houses that are located.
But at the end of the day, we are at the mercy.
We are
at the mercy of the landlord.
Yes, that's it. You
I
people are
think,
It's quite
I
unfortunate.
think tenants just have to understand that because it's just a matter of understanding. Like you earlier mentioned, whether you live in a house for 1 day or you live in a house for 10 years, you're still a tenant.
Exactly.
And I think those issues too, it's a source of encouragement for those
you
of
to
us
go and
who are
build, to
renting.
build,
Yes,
go and build.
exactly, so that
go and
you
build.
also start saving some little money. If you think you drink 3 beers a day, you can 3 bottles of beer a day, you can reduce
Take
it
one
to
a week.
two a day even, and
Or
you
one.
you use 500 or one,
Yeah.
and you start saving, because some persons have actually built their own house because of the insults they received while
Exactly.
they lived as tenants. But we are not saying that it is something which is good for the relationship not to be cordial. It's always important for tenants and landlords to have a cordial relationship. And also, honestly, tenants are really annoying at times. Most of the time, 90% of the time, the fault is on the tenants, because they think that when they have paid their 50,000 francs per month, they have done wonders. That's not wonders. That the landlord spent a lot of money to build that house, and if you think that 50,000 francs is wonders, then it is as good as you
building
just saving and building your own house. So
everybody cannot build.
Good. Everybody cannot build, but we have to come to that understanding that we need that mutual respect.
Yes,
Mutual respect and understanding.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's very
because
important.
when you respect your landlord as landlord, there are times that the landlord can even say, okay, wait, my pikin, I really understand, so the time bad for you. You can pay me after 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
I've seen a situation where my mother, practically, she left her house for 2 years without people paying. And they left and entered a better house, you know, and they will not even give you a good name. At the end of the day, generally they still
they are used to wicked woman.
That is it. So
exactly.
all in all, that's just, we have to understand where we live, and we try to improve on our attitudes as tenants and also as landlords. Now we have few minutes to go. Let us look at some of the strategies that can enhance the relationship between the tenants and the landlords. I'll begin with you, Tebo.
I think the most important strategy is that pay your rent and on time. There's nothing that sounds sweeter to your landlords here than ensuring that you meet. And the most important obligation you have as a tenant is to pay your rent. Yes. First of all, it's a sign of responsibility. You are a responsible person. It's a sign of responsibility. It's a sign of maturity. It's a sign of living within the confines of the law. I mean, it builds credibility. It builds respect. Not paying rent is not a very good thing. It's not a very decent thing. You don't conduct yourself in a way that carries respect and admiration from friends and from neighbors and from your landlord. So I think the most important thing is to pay your rent on time, and of course mutual respect with your neighbors, and mutual respect with the people who are living around you in the quarter. When there's a community work, maybe you can engage. If you cannot engage physically, you can support financially in other means. You live your life in peaceful coexistence with your neighbors, because some landlords do live with their tenants, some don't. Most often they don't. So those kind of report when they reach the table of your landlord, I think definitely any normal reasonable person will be happy and will ensure that you are a good tenant. The same applies, right, to the landlords. I think that because none of us are perfect.
Sure.
We don't live in a perfect country. We don't live in a country where salaries are paid by organization on time and so on. So I think landlords too have to be a little bit patient. They have to be tolerant. Their threshold of tolerance has to kind of increase to ensure that people cannot meet up with rent on specific time, provided they can still meet up few days later, 1 or 2 weeks after, they can still accommodate. Again, it depends on
the landlord.
Exactly. Yes. And the fact that landlord A is doing doesn't mean that landlord B must do it. People have different reasons why they want money in a particular period. But I think that everybody being flexible, being respectful, and I think educated landlords are the best. When I mean educated, people are exposed, people understand challenges, the way they reason, the way they respond to situations. I remember I had an incident in my house. I was attacked, which we are aware, and my landlady was, she showed a lot of concern. She came home, she visited, she talked to me. I didn't have security for some time. She apologized to me, explained why the security people keep. Yes, I mean,
I were just like
I felt yes, which is good, you know, just that human to human relationship.
And with that, there are times when you say, "Hey, no, I have to pay my rent."
Yes,
because
of course.
Sometimes these tenants don't pay rent not because they don't have the money.
Exactly,
they have the money, but they just want.
They have other priorities that they think is better.
Yes,
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. But there's no other priority than your rent. Because that's where you live.
That's true. Madam Walang, let me also hear your voice.
To me, Mr. Tebo has said virtually everything, but I still hammer on the fact that a contract should be put in place. Okay. Because with that contract, you always fall back at the contract to verify the terms of your agreements, the terms at which you are living in the house. Even if your landlord hurts you, you go back to those terms. In as much as you people have mutual agreement, when you have a document that you have to hold, and you go to your landlord and you tell your landlord that this is what we agreed on. But the way you are treating me otherwise. please, what do you think we can do? Any other person, no matter how wicked you are, at least seeing what you agree on, you try to like change and you try to put things in place. So a contract is very, very important. Yes, a written contract is important.
And I think that's why many landlords in Moliko especially and other parts of the country, they have also instituted this issue of working with law firms to ensure that they handle their hostels. They really don't want to have any connection with the tenants. And still looking at the issue of the tenant and landlord relationship, we are also falling back on the contract to say that tenants sometimes they try to be very, will I say tricky or what? Because they come to your house and they tell you, I'm going to be living alone. I'm going to be living with my younger brother. And before you know it, a wife has come in. Before you know it, children have added. And you want to talk,
they insult you.
Some even transfer your house to another tenant and leave.
So
they pack out, they transfer your house. I don't know
call it subletting.
It's terrible. I don't know if people get that
they
kind
transfer,
of...
and the other tenants, those who are coming in, they give money to someone who is a tenant. How can you be paying your rent to a tenant?
And let me tell you something. The person that the house is being subletted to, when you go to meet her, you say, no, I'm not the one who entered a contract with you.
Yes, it's the other person.
So I am just here. You have to, if you have any quick notice,
give for that person.
But unfortunately, they are talking out of ignorance because you are the one living in the house.
Quick notice will quit you.
So quick notice will definitely
quit you. Who is
in the house. We are so thankful for your knowledge that you've shared with us. I just want you to give your words of conclusion as we leave the studio this evening, Barrister.
My word of conclusion is all landlords it's good to create an amicable relationship by putting in place a contract, but then we should use human face where there is conflict.
Okay.
Yes, we should minimize conflict by discussion, by communicating. And so far as tenancy is concerned, I'll advise that whosoever is aggrieved should avoid litigation because the processes are very long and unnecessarily expensive that you will come out gaining nothing. So if you feel you are not comfortable where you are, it's just kindly leave. It plays on your dignity, your personality, your morality and everything, rather than staying there causing problem because maybe each time you pass, your landlord see your face, your landlord will be cursing, say all type of things about you. But when you go to your landlord and you tell us clearly, I'm not happy with this or that, so I have to leave. I mean, they look at you differently.
That's true.
Yes, so we should avoid litigation. That's my stand. So far as tenancy is concerned.
Thank you, Barrister.
Yes, litigation should be avoided.
I think that people should not bow to social pressures and go for houses that are beyond their means.
Sure.
People should always, because again, there are houses for any amount to any amount.
Yes.
This issue of picking a house that you're not sure of your income the next day because you have some 300,000 francs in your pocket.
So you're quote according to your size.
Yeah, you start having problems everywhere and so on. You are not sleeping, you are running, you work at you go to work, you work you put overtime because you don't want your landlord to see you when you're tired. When you come by the night, you leave early in the morning.
You
become a prisoner to yourself.
You make children to be telling lies.
Exactly, the lies. When you are there, it is not necessary. We must learn to live according to our means. It makes us to have peace of mind. Because if you live according to your means, most often you will not run into this kind of trouble. It's true that once in a while, life kind of happens, right? Some things can come once in a while. But it will not be that frequent to cause you a problem, I think.
That's true. Thank you so much, Barrister. We learned a lot from you today. Thank you, Tebo. It's been wonderful having you today on the program. And we say thank you to all those who made this program successful. If you enjoyed the program, take another rendezvous with us next week, Friday, same time on DMR TV. In the meantime, you can have a re-watch of the program tomorrow, Saturday at 8 p.m. I have been for Mosha Mirabel. Have a good evening.